Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm really looking forward to showing you these two super versatile dies from our friends at Hunkydory. They're ribbon threading nesting dies, and we have them in rectangles and circles. So I love a nesting die, and these have the added detailing that you see here. Now this means once you die cut these shapes, you can thread ribbon 7 millimeters wide or less through the slots of your die cut. With the rectangles die, let me show you this one here. You've got 3 different sizes of rectangles. They nest one inside the other should you want. And there's also a straight die here. Now this can be used to create a border strip, and we'll talk about that later. With the circles set, you have 5 dies. So you've got 4 circles, again nesting, and then you've got this long straight die. This can be used to create an inset border. We'll take a look at that as well. So with both sets, you have both the positive and the negative of the shapes. So you've got the frame, for example, of the circle, and then also the innies too. And of course, we can put those to use as well. There are so many possibilities with these 2 sets, and I can't wait to get into the projects with you. I'm so glad you're here today, so come play with us. Here you can see that rectangle frame, which I've threaded with a 1/8 of an inch wide ribbon. Now that's narrower than 7 millimeters, so you can see I have a little bit of space here on either side, so I can go a bit wider if I want to. Now with your ribbon threading, this is a really simple process. You can see I've got my rectangle die cut here, and all of these open areas are where my ribbon can go. So I've got this already started here, started at one end, and then just working my way down the rest. Now I do recommend, it makes it a little bit easier if you trim the end of your ribbon at an angle, just makes it slightly easier to go through those slots. Let me grab this and put that in there. So I've got this going all the way through here. When you're working with your cardstock and pattern paper, with this rectangle here, I'm using some of Hot Off the Press's cardstock. And I do recommend that you go with kind of a standard cardstock weight, not a really light craft paper, because that's a bit too flimsy. So just keep that in mind. Now when I come to the end here, what I'm going to do is just gently pull this so that I'm coming to the end of this edge, and then I'm going to trim this side. I'm going to glue the ends and then trim them down. And then that way I can have everything in place and then go the other direction and this way, rather than trying to use one long piece of ribbon. I just found that easier. Now for the glue, I'm using my acrylic glue from Creative Expressions in the fine tip glue applicator. This just gives me a bit more precision. I'm going to lift this up and put just a little tiny dab of glue in there and kind of tap that down. Now what I would do is repeat the same over on the other side, and to keep this tacked down, I just use an acrylic stamping block and place that on there until that glue is dry, and then that way I can make sure my ribbon's not sliding around there, but it is held in place. So I'd repeat that on the other side here, and then grab another piece of ribbon and continue around my frame. Super simple to do there. And then I've got a really beautiful kind of texturized design going on here. Now with this one, I also use the innie rectangle from the larger die. So here's the die that I used for my frame. Now the larger die will give me the innie, like we talked about before, and that can be used as a perfectly sized mat. And that's what I've done here, just die cut that from white cardstock. And I've popped up my frame on foam tape using a little bit of foam tape at the corners and cutting it down to go in between these areas here too. So I'm using pattern papers and embellishments from the Seafoam and Pearls collection. I've got some really pretty pattern paper as my background. This is the collection. You can see those gorgeous designs here. And I've got my pattern paper here as a background. I've left top and bottom kind of a frame of white from that card front, and I think that nicely coordinates with the white behind my message on here. I've got chipboard for my focal, not only for the sentiment, but also for these little accents. And that is my partially used set, the Seafoam and Pearls chipboard collection. So I have used these seashells and the starfish as they come. So this kind of natural color here. And then I've inked this sentiment using some powder blue ink. Now this is a really easy process to do. Let me slide aside my card here. I've got a piece of scrap paper and I've got one of the embellishments from that chipboard set. And when I trimmed this out, you can see I've trimmed out the fish, leaving a little bit of the edging around with the excess chipboard material. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to hold things down. I'm just going to take my ink pad and just press this on here. You can do this on your craft mat too. And as much or as little as you want to. Now this is a dye-based ink, so I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to dry, and then I can pop this out from the backing sheet, and I am ready to go. Now here I've used sticky specks to adhere that sentiment in place because this is a pretty intricate design and I didn't want my white glue sort of soaking out from either side. So sticky specks are my way to go with this. With these smaller elements here, I use some foam tape and some white glue to go with that. Then I have a few little accents around here. These are sparklets from the Barefoot Beach pack. And then for my card inside, I've got some more of that pattern paper, and I'm using that border die. So this is the continuous die that we looked at. Let me show you this because this is a really fun process to do too, really super simple. So I've got this on white cardstock, and this is the die design. So it can be this long if you want it to be. You can also extend it. So what I recommend you do here, you position your die fairly close to the edge of your cardstock. That's just going to help line things up a bit better. Secure that in place, run it through your die cutting machine, and then if you want to elongate that, simply align this first open slot with the last one that you've just die cut. And again, you'll want to keep this aligned with the edge of your cardstock, just so you don't sort of drift off to one side. Secure that in place, and I do really recommend using the low tack tape. I like this one from Hunkydory. Secure that in place, run it through your die cutting machine. You can keep going as long as you want to, and then you will have a beautiful border like this. Now here I've got, as I mentioned, some of that beautiful pattern paper as well as the coordinating cardstock, which I also used for my frame here. And then I have a script dazzle at the bottom. So you can see how nicely the dies work with ribbon, but you can also use them without ribbon. So let's take a look. For this card, I'm using just the rectangles without ribbon threading, although I do have a tiny bow glued on here on top as an accent. So I'm starting with a large light green rectangle. Now this is the innie from the largest die. Then I have this dark green rectangle nested here and a second smaller one nested inset. Now the white is the innie from this rectangle, and I've popped it up on foam tape for a little bit of extra dimension. And the sentiment is from the Sending Smiles Dazzle set. So for this card, I'm using the Poppies paper pack and cardstock set. So these are the pattern papers in the collection. Absolutely gorgeous. And for the edges here, I've used a little bit of gold foiling. And this is a technique I love for adding just a little bit of shine. So let me show you this. I'll scoot aside my card and bring in a piece of this green cardstock. So ignore this part for just a second, and we'll talk through the process. I'm using Wow's Gold Fab Foil. Now you get a lot of foil in here, and what I do is just cut off a little bit of it to work with. And then I've got my glue stick on hand. So all I need to do is just take that glue stick and apply a bit of glue just along the edge here, as much or as little as I want. And then right away, I'm going to take my foil and place this down and smooth it down. Make sure that that glue really sticks to that foil. So the foil has a shiny side, which is this side that you can see up here, and then a dull side on the back. So you'll always want to place your foil with that shiny colored side facing you. Then simply let this dry. Now you can, again, put it underneath one of your acrylic stamping blocks or even your plates from your embossing machine, and then let that dry really thoroughly. And then a couple minutes later, you can pull this off and you will have a beautiful foiled edge. Gives kind of a distressed, shabby chic look. I really, really love this. And it's a great way just to add a little bit of shine to your cardstock. So it works on pattern paper, works on cardstock, whichever way you want to go. I really like how it also coordinates with the metallic gold of my sentiment on there. Now for my card inside, you can see I have another one of those borders. Plus I've got a dazzle from the Grateful, Thankful, Blessed pack. Alrighty, let's take a look at another card here. We've been working with the rectangle die, so we can take a look at the circle die set. Now this card has a nice large focal image. This scallop portion is about 4 inches in diameter, so a really nice focal size. I've mounted it onto a slightly larger circle, so it's the innie from the largest circle in the set, and used some paper from the Seafoam and Pearls paper pack for the center area. Now again, I've threaded this with ribbon going all the way around, and then this bow here was tied separately and glued on. So I wasn't threading and tying a bow. I just secured the ends to the back and then put this bow on top. Now I have some more gold foiling going around the outside edges here, which also matches the gold Grateful Dazzle that I have as my focal. Then for my card inside, I have a strip of foiled cardstock and another bit of pattern paper, plus my Dazzle sentiment. Our final card also uses the circle dies, so you can see how versatile these are. Now I haven't threaded the dies with ribbon except for this little bow here, which I looped through just 2 of the slots and tied on the front. My message is from the We're Together Dazzle set. That just goes right in the center on that innie piece. Now at the bottom, I've got this gorgeous edging on the front of my card, and I like this a lot. It adds something really special to the card design. This die is also in the circles set, and that's what I've used to create the scalloped border. So what you'll do, let me bring in one of my pre-folded blank white cards. Now what I would suggest you do is fold it to make sure that you're aligning this evenly with the edge here, with the folded side of your card. And then you're going to secure this in place with some low tack tape. Then you'll want to open it up before you send it through your die cutting machine, just so that you only go through one panel here. And then you will have a gorgeous border that looks like this. Now for the front of my card, I have paper from the Poppy set, and I backed this with the cardstock from the Poppy set, so it shows a nice contrast through the open areas. And of course, because they go together, I know it coordinates perfectly. Then for my card inside, I have another circle, this time just kind of cropped off at the top and the side of the card. And again, another We're Together Dazzle on the inside of my circle. And this is our final project of the day today. So a big thank you to our friends at Hunkydory for these fantastic additions to your card making stash. So versatile and a lot of fun to work with as well. A special thanks to you for joining me today. We're really glad you're here, and we're so happy you're part of the Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.